The Midwest was formed by explorers, those who were willing to risk everything to see a better future. While our lands are still rich with agriculture, we are more than just flyover country. Our former cow towns are now business hubs and technology innovators. On this show, we tell the stories of folks marketing in the middle. This is the Midwest Marketing Show. Welcome to the Midwest Marketing Show. I'm Jeff Julian. As you can see, I'm in the middle of a field in Iowa, right on the border, and we're heading back home from the Minneapolis AMA event where I spoke last night. Great turnout. We talked about agile marketing. We had awesome questions, and I'll be back next month to do a workshop to give them the deep dive into what it means to be agile in your marketing efforts. But for this show, I have special guest Pamela Muldoon, who I caught up with at Content Marketing World. She's a former Midwestern, grew up here in the middle, but now she lives on the coast. But she is part of the Content Marketing Institute's podcast network with her show, Content Marketing Next, which has been around for a long time. She's an amazing talent when it comes to audio, when it comes to voiceover. And if you're looking to get into podcasting, I absolutely suggest you call her right away and ask her for help, because it is a little bit to get used to, and you got to figure out the audio quality, you got to figure out the recording devices, you got to figure out how to do your editing, and she's your gal. She's the one who's done it forever. She's got a background in radio, and she knows it. So without further ado, here's Pamela Muldoon. Pamela, thank you for joining me at the Midwest Marketing Show here live at Content Marketing World, and you are the host today of the Hollywood Squares.
I know, something I grew up with, and I finally,
Exactly.
This is pretty cool, actually.
It's amazing. They've done a great job on the set.
I know,
here.
I totally want to play.
So you have a very interesting background.
Yes.
And so kind of walk us through college and then to where you are today. How did you get into the voice work?
How did I get into this where I'm talking for a living?
Yeah.
Okay, it actually started when I was in high school.
Okay.
I started I'm from a small Minnesota rural community, and here's the funny thing, for those that are watching, this is a Midwest show, so they're definitely going to get it. I used to be with Future Homemakers of America in high school.
Nice.
I actually became a state officer for the state of Minnesota my senior year in high school. And I come from a small rural family, so we don't have a lot of money, right? We don't for the travel and just the extra pieces that would bring to my family, but they wanted to support me. Well, I needed to get a part-time job. And my advisor, Mrs. Cooley, we're going to give a shout out to Mrs. Cooley today. She saw in the newspaper an ad for a part-time DJ at one of the radio stations about 20 minutes down the road. Mm-hmm. And on a whim, she said, you should go try that out. You should just go see if they like you, because you like to talk.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, kind of long story short, as they say, basically I was hired as a part-time weekend DJ at KZZ FM in Glenwood, Minnesota, and that was my senior job. And when I graduated from high school, I was like, what am I going to be when I grow up? Well, the other full-time DJs, they seemed to be having a good time. So I went to Brown Institute, which was Brown College at the time in Minneapolis, for radio broadcasting. And that's where I started what would be about a 10 to 12 year career in radio broadcasting as a DJ, and then a copywriter and a copy director. And I always said the best job I had to leave.
So WKRP is definitely someplace in your heart.
Yes, I did know a couple of those characters are real, by the way. They do wear the leisure suits.
That's awesome. So you've kind of made this shift because you became a podcaster, and now you're doing work with Content Marketing Institute.
Right.
What would you say your day-to-day activities are? Because you have a lot of fires, or a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, well, it's interesting as a content creator, that kind of sits in itself as its own challenge, right? So whether you're a prolific blogger, or you're great at video, or you're a podcaster, you've got your process of churning out that quality content. And so I have my systems and process for that. My current show, Content Marketing Next, is an interview format. So there's a lot of preparatory stuff that goes into that.
Unless you're here at the show and then it's just we're going live.
Right. Unless you're as brave as Jeff is. And we're just doing it live on the fly. He has no idea what I'm really going to say.
This never happens at home.
So there's a lot of work around that. But what I take is I learn from that process. I've been podcasting since 2009. And all of my personal shows have been interview format to a certain degree. And so because of my broadcast background, when I became a consultant in 2006, after a couple layoffs, hello recession.
That happens.
Then I knew podcasting was a natural fit for me, right? So I take a lot of that into my current personal podcasting practice and process. When it comes to some of the other work we do with CMI and the Podcast Network, what's the interesting challenge is the integration, right? I mean, individual podcasters, you kind of own your own little box. Mm-hmm. You can choose to have it on your blog hub. You can, run your social media the way you feel it needs to be appropriate for you as the voice of the podcast. Yeah. But now when you're dealing with more of a, even though it's not a large organization, enterprise, I still kind of refer to it that way, you're dealing with other team members who are doing the social media, who are doing the email marketing, who are helping with the editorial calendar and that process. So you really have to be very diplomatic, understand what the overall strategy is, how does audio fit into that, and how can we continue to do the promotion and distribution that still builds the audience we're seeking.
Yeah. So I absolutely love that we're getting out of content marketing being blogs and articles.
Yes.
And we're getting into more, people are saying video, but the beautiful thing about video is video always has an audio track.
Yes.
An audio track can be pulled into a podcast, an MP3 of some sort, and delivered to a person who needs the attention placed somewhere else.
Right.
And so, what are some things that you see marketers kind of needing to do when they start looking at podcasting? Not necessarily tips, but like, what are those first steps that they should take when podcasting?
Well, one of the first questions I have a marketing person for their organization consider is, what are the content gaps that audio might be able to fulfill? And then in line with that, what is the business objective that you think audio could meet for you? So, for example, when we think podcasting, what's the first kind of podcast we think about?
Yeah, you think
entertainment or
exactly.
edutainment,
NPR,
external podcast. I want my sponsors. I want to build, to 50,000 downloads, that kind of thing. And I like to have more of a strategic conversation. Are you looking to, say, decrease customer service calls so that we can build something from an audio platform that educates your customer and causes less frustration for them to have to contact you through customer service channels?
Yeah.
Are you looking to increase employee retention or engagement? Well, what if we did some podcasting internally or audio content internally that got from a message from the CEO, or HR created a benefits, audio component or something to that effect? So it has more of a broader conversation, and it's just a different question with a better answer for a lot of these companies, I think, is where to consider. And then from there, it's just like anything else. The tools are the tools. It's the right person behind the mic. Make sure you understand your format and intention, and have a good solid workflow and process to make sure that it's consistently getting in front of your audience. Yeah,
so it sounds like there's definitely some tips you would have, though, for getting started, because I, like you've been podcasting for a very long time. We've hit our 10-year mark. I was looking back in Flickr, and I saw pictures of me sitting in my basement with a card table and a microphone, using a digital hybrid to pull the plain telephone line into the mixer, put it in, and like the only way I could do that is having a technical background.
Yes.
Now it's so much easier. Skype is actually a valid way to record these podcasts or these audio files, and so much easier than it used to be. So if I'm a marketer and I'm looking to, not necessarily do the show and the broadcast and stuff like that, but to do, like you're talking about, engagement with customers in an audio form that delivers content, what would 3 tips be that you would say to help them get started?
Well, I think the first one is to really, don't worry about the tech yet, right? Sometimes these things are sexy, right? These cameras are kind of cool, Jeff, right? We get really excited with that shiny object, and we want to, what's the right microphone? What software should I use? And all of that. And that's going to come. And if you're talking to the right people who can guide you there, you'll get good answers. But really understand what you want to deliver first. And this isn't a brand new concept, is it?
No, not at all.
It isn't. But really think about not only your audience. One of the things I say is if you want to do a weekly piece of content, can you really fulfill 52 pieces of content to make that work? Maybe it's 24, or maybe it's 12, or, so figuring out where you want to start from is really critical. You can always get bigger.
Exactly.
So that whole plan process, like I mentioned with workflow. But then when you do start to get to more of the soft skills and the technical side, I always say put the right person behind the microphone. This is critical, and it may be that it's somebody in your organization, but it may not be who you thought it was. This is the most intimate, it's reliant on a connection that is different from video, right? Yeah. I can see you right now, and you can make a different connection with me. Yeah. When we shut this all down, there's a soft skills training piece of media communication that's extremely intimate, that you'd be willing to take classes, be willing to be coached on that. Yeah. Because if done well, if done right, there's a reason we have our favorite DJ from growing up, right? And it's not because of the music station or the talk station topics all the time. It's really that person. Yeah. So make sure you've done that work. And then third, when it comes to the technology, don't just go on a blog and start picking, I just want the $100 USB mic. Again, with the right talent, you're choosing microphone and technology and soundproofing, soundproofing based on where you're doing your reporting, who's actually speaking in the mic, the format. So really do that research around that. You don't have to spend a ton of money, like you said, Jeff. It's not like it was back 10, 15, 20 years ago, but spend your money smart and ask the right people, good people who know what they're talking about when it comes to audio and technology, to put those pieces together for you.
Yeah, so I usually don't do like endorsements, but if you are excited about doing podcasting, call Pamela. Hire her. Bring her in. She has one of the most engaging shows. It's one of those that I listen to and immediately it's like comfort and calm, and I know she's going to handle the interview correctly. She's going to guide the guests the way they need to go, because you know as well as I do, everyone's nervous the first time.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's almost every podcast is their first time, it feels like.
Even the most professional speaker can all of a sudden become a little shaky when it comes to these cameras and microphones, right? So for sure.
So call on Pamela, and I'll give her contact information on the form. But thank you for joining us. I know that you're a West Coaster, but you have Midwest heart.
My heart is always going to be in Minnesota.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you a lot for coming.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been an honor to be a part of this show, so I really appreciate you asking.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.